Lesson number 42 and 12th lesson on the addition script. We are learning JavaScript and we are learning JavaScript by examples. And in this series, we are trying to recreate this application which is available on this website here. And I will include the link below. And this is the application that we are trying to recreate. And this is what we have done so far. So in the last lesson, we learned how to move cursor into this input field when the page is loaded or when we refresh the page. Okay, so the cursor appears in this input field. And we also learned that when we type in an answer, we do get a response as a tick or a cross, and the cursor moves into the next input field. If I type in an answer here, the cursor moves into the next input field. So this is what we did in the last lesson. If I change the size of the browser, this is the JavaScript code that we have written so far, and I'm using Sublime text editor. You can use any text editor that you want. Okay, so the movement of cursor is being controlled by this line of code. Okay, with this property, nextElementSibling is the property that is being used to move cursor from one input field to another input field. And this is what we did in the last lesson. So the question is what we are doing here. So what we are doing here, we are trying to simply find the parent element of this variable. Okay, so let me say console.log and copy and paste this here. What is this variable? This variable is being created just here on line 77. This is where we are creating this variable, and then we are also creating an element, the input element, which is being saved in this variable. So all these input elements are being saved as this variable. So in this line of code, we are trying to find the parent element of this input field. Whatever the cursor is, whatever input field the cursor is in, we're trying to find the parent element of this element. So if I save it and refresh it, press F12, type in an answer here, you'll notice that the parent element of this input field is a div that has a class called question class. And if you notice above that, you'll see that the whole div is highlighted. Okay, so the parent element of this input field is a div. Which div is it? This is this div here. Okay, and this is where it is defined as the parent element. Now let me also prove that to you. So if I say questions.set attribute, and I want to give the parent element an ID, which is this question box. Okay, this variable, and I want to give it an ID, and I will intentionally make a horrible mistake just to teach you something, and I will say Q box. Okay, so I've given an ID of Q box to the parent element of this input field. If I save it, refresh it, and if I type in an answer here, you'll notice that the parent element of this input field, which is saved as a result variable, is this div, which is an ID of QBox and a class of question class. Now, why this is a horrible mistake, I hope some of you can see it. The reason is that all the elements in JavaScript should have a unique ID. By saying this, we are assigning every question box an ID of QBox. Okay, and there are 50 boxes, 50 of these div elements here at the moment, which is not right. So what we can do instead, we can use, instead of using these single quotations, I will use a tick symbol, which is on the top of the just above the tab key and on the left of number 1 key on your keyboard. So I'll also remove this, and I will use a tick symbol one more time and before that I will say dollar and opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and I will use this variable called I. Okay, by doing this, every question box which is the parent element of the input fields will have a unique ID. So if I save it and refresh it, type in an answer here, you'll see that the parent element of this input field is this div called qbox1. If I press enter, the parent element of this input field, if I type in an answer here, the parent element of this input field is a div that has an ID of qbox2, although they all have the same class. All right, and let me prove that to you. Because we are using a class, I can actually show the parent element. So I will say border 2 pixel solid blue. So if I save it again, refresh it, solid blue, save it one more time and refresh it, you can see that this is the parent element called qbox, and these are the children. So this is another div and this is another div, and this is an input field. Okay, so all three of these things are the children of this element. Similarly, all these question boxes are the children of this container. This is another div, and I can also say border 2 pixels solid green, for example. So if I save it, refresh it, I will change the size of the browser, so and I will get rid of this. So this is the parent element of all these divs that are visible to you, as they all have blue rectangles. So this is the parent element and these are all the children. Having said that, this is the next element sibling of this div. This is the next element sibling of this, and this is what we are doing in the next part of our code, next element sibling. So as we are finding the parent element of the input field that the cursor is in, and then we are trying to find the next element sibling of that element. So if I copy this and paste this here, if I save it, refresh it, press F12 and type in an answer here, so this is the parent element, question box 2. So we found the parent element of this input field, which is this question box 1, and then we are saying find the next element sibling. Okay, so next element sibling is this div with the ID of qbox2. Okay, so see this is the next element sibling. If I type in an answer here, the next element sibling is this one, and then with the help of this method, query selector method, we are trying to find the input field of the next element sibling. Okay, if I type in an answer, as soon as I press enter, it will find the next sibling of this element, this div element, which is this, and then within that next element sibling it will find this input field and simply will focus the cursor into this element. So if I press enter, this is exactly what happens. So this is how powerful next element sibling property is, and this is how it is working. All these JavaScripts are available from this website. All the videos are available from this website. If you go to videos and click here, all the videos are available from this website, and if you press on any video, you'll see that the code is also available here. Okay, and you can play this and you can watch, you can see the code, you can copy the code for your practice. So bye for now. I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you very much.